GRB is when the planning and budgeting process in any country takes into consideration how public money impacts on men and women, boys and girls, because it impacts on them differently.
Men and women have different needs, and therefore when one is preparing a budget, starting from planning, drafting the budget, implementing, and evaluation, one needs to be sensitive to those different needs.
It's not just for women, because GRB is classified into different categories. For instance, in Kenya, when you ask them if they're doing GRB, they will tell you that they're doing it because they're women funds, they're youth funds. But this is just one category where you have women-specific targeted programs.
There's a lot of inequality, and women and girls are disadvantaged. And therefore, gender-responsive budgeting emphasizes the issue of tackling inequality through careful allocation of resources. Thanks to UN Women, we recently finished a scoping analysis on gender-responsive budgeting together with the Control of Budget and National Treasury. In countries that have succeeded to reduce poverty, they were able to do that because of the political drive and will from the topmost offices, the presidency, the prime minister's offices, and national treasuries. The mission that UN Women facilitated to Morocco for government officials, including officials from National Treasury, Control of Budget, Kenya School of Government, Council of Governors, National Gender Equality Commission. One of the key lessons that came out of that as a best case study was actually ensuring that gender-responsive budgeting, one, is driven by National Treasury, guidelines that are very clear and simple, performance contracts of the key leaders of the sector ministries signing on what they are going to deliver, and the president of that country actually holding them accountable on what they are delivering.
It's important to governments because countries that have actually implemented it successfully have been able to reach the other, 50% of the population in a more direct, impactful manner. And you're also able to see how, service delivery is, rolled out to the entire population in a manner that is efficient and effective.
Kenya recently became a middle-income country, but it is one of the most unequal countries in the world. The government of Kenya has committed to reducing poverty by the year 2030, and gender-responsive budgeting is one of the tools that is going to enable that.
It does sound too good to be true, especially when we're talking about it on a theoretical basis. The challenge then comes, how do we make this practical? And I think this is why there have been different measures that are being used with regards to institutionalizing GRB, both from, first of all, having the orientation. So we do a lot of capacity building.
We're working with the Turkana County government, which is part of the UN Joint Program on Turkana. And going forward, we intend to focus on the health and agriculture sector within the Turkana County government to see whether if these principles are used during the budget formulation for the financial year 2017-2018.
And actually the county government lowered the cess to 20 shillings per day from 50.
It's not enforceable. It's political goodwill.
When we started the training on gender mainstreaming, which includes gender-responsive budgeting, the discussions were quite interesting. As we continued engaging them with evidence on why this is important for you to reduce poverty in Turkana County, by the time we were finishing that training, they had completely shifted their mentality.
This for us has been something that has been missing, because coming from Turkana, women are not represented, or gender issues are not usually mainstreamed in our budgets. It's a good opportunity for us to be able, as policymakers, to bring issues of women, people with disability, people who are not really represented, to be part of our economy.
And of course, once it works in Turkana, then this can always be replicated elsewhere in the country.
The three pillars of our partnership are evidence generation to feed strategic advocacy so that we can talk to decision makers, influence policies, and the last one is building capacities to make sure that national stakeholders and county stakeholders dealing with the budgeting process are aware of or get the skills or get the right skills to include appropriately gender and children issues in the national budgeting process.
Implementation of GRB does not only focus on one institution. We have several institutions, and here it actually calls for us to look at the public financial management system as a whole, where you have the National Treasury, you have the Office of the Controller of Budget, and different sectoral ministries who are involved.
The Office of the Control of Budget partnered with the UN Women, the Kenya office, in a baseline scoping analysis to identify entry points in the public finance management reforms.
One is getting the whole country to understand what you mean by gender-responsive budgeting and providing practical examples in terms of why is it important to ensure that women and girls are part of the development process.
The challenges are mainly in the area of technical expertise and also low levels of financing, GRB initiatives, and also lack of disaggregated data on gender.
One UN is, of course, based on agencies' comparative advantage. One case in point is that we have been able to partner with UNICEF and the World Bank to undertake a public expenditure review. And this is seen as part of the work we're doing in gender-responsive budgeting.
This project that we are sharing with UN Women and World Bank is a very concrete example because we do it, the planning together. We understood that by working together, we can move forward the agenda of children and women.
The different agencies bring together different mandates. UN Women, for example, brings in their key focus on women. UNICEF brings in their key focus on children. The credibility of the UN speaking in one voice increases, and even resource mobilization going forward increases.
Looking forward, year in, year out, the design of the budgets and even the process involves a lot more women in designing the budget. And then the analysis involves a lot of sex disaggregated data. And this way of developing the budget is also taken down at the county level, such that the aggregate effect of it is that the county level has gender-responsive budget, the national level also has gender-responsive budget, and finally, looking forward, such that the quarterly reports of the Office of the Controller of Budget takes into consideration the effects of the budget implementation on men and women, and the reports are reflected in that manner.
We know that increasingly gender and other social commitments will be financed by member states. So it is important to create capacities again within national stakeholders to be able to analyze a budget.
It will also require time because for me, I think the ultimate will be the Public Finance Management Act of 2012 being amended and appreciating gender-responsive budgeting as a principle.
In Kenya, there has been a lot of awareness on gender-responsive budgeting, but the problem has been now to institutionalize the same in our budget processes. But I see commitment, and I like the efforts that UN Women is making to ensure that gender-responsive budgeting is actually institutionalized.
Yes.